From the Carl Chevrolet Studios right here in West Des Moines, welcome to Iowa Live. I am Lou and very excited about what we have in store for you today. Especially excited to talk to Kim Baer, attorney at law, because we need to teach you a little something about LLCs. But before we do, Kim, I want to be the first one and maybe the only one to wish you International Be Kind to Lawyers Day.
Oh, wow. I wish you would have given me a heads up. I could have had T-shirts made.
All right, so write it down. It is the 12th of April for next year, and we'll get some T-shirts made up. But happy Be Kind to Lawyers Day.
Wow. Well, we definitely need that day for sure.
I'm telling you. So we're talking today about the importance of a limited liability company. Tell us what that's all about.
Right. So if you own a business or you own a rental property, or maybe you're thinking about starting a business, one of the things that we recommend is that you set up what's called an LLC. It stands for Limited Liability Company. And in Iowa, it's pretty easy to set up, and it gives you a lot of benefits.
Now, you're saying if you have a small company, even a real small company, it has its benefits. And what are some of those benefits that we're talking about?
Well, the biggest benefit is it protects it. It creates a shield around your personal assets. So it's going to protect anything that the business is doing. So an example might be, let's say that you're making cake pops or brownies or something out of your house and you're selling them, and somebody's coming up to your property and they fall and trip on the stairs, or they eat your brownie and they get food poisoning and they miss work for a week, or something bad happens. If you don't have a company or a corporation set up, that person's going to sue you personally, and if they win, the judgment's going to be against you personally, which means all your personal assets are at risk. But if you have an LLC or a corporation, then they will sue the corporation.
Okay, and that would entitle them, just to say worst case scenario here, would it just entitle them to the assets of your company?
Exactly, Lou. That's exactly the point. So, once you set up an LLC, we have you keep a separate bank account, and that's where your profits go. That's where how you pay your expenses. And so really it's whatever bank accounts or assets are owned by the LLC, that's what's at risk.
Okay, so if they do file a claim against you, it's against your company and totally leaves your personal stuff out of it, right?
Absolutely. Now, there are some exceptions, something known as piercing the corporate veil. And so if you don't treat your company the way you should, and you don't dot and cross the T's, they certainly could, bring a claim against you personally. So there are some exceptions to that rule. But generally, that's the whole reason why you set up an LLC, is to protect your personal assets.
Okay, you talked about a company where people were indulging in consumables, but what about people that have rental properties? Explain why this is so important that they have an LLC set up.
Absolutely. I mean, let's say there's a mold issue, or there's a dog bite issue, or somebody coming onto the property gets hurt because they trip and fall, and it was something that the landlord was supposed to be responsible for. If you set up an LLC and you place that building or that duplex or that rental property in the LLC, then your exposure really is the value of that asset. It's not going to be the value of other assets or other buildings or your personal assets. So most rental property owners, I think, use LLCs, and if you're not, you certainly should consider doing it. So.
How difficult is it to set up an LLC?
It's really easy, and that's the other thing. I think people think it's really expensive and it's difficult. We usually can get one set up within a few days. If you have a lawyer, give your lawyer a call and they can tell you what they would charge. I think in our office for a one-member LLC, it starts around $500, and that includes the filing fee with the Secretary of State. And then it's a pass-through, so any information goes right onto your personal tax returns. So you don't have to file a business tax return. Oh. So it really is. It's a pretty easy situation, and it gives you so much protection.
And you can have as little as one member in the LLC, or two members, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, we set up a lot of them that just have one member. And then sometimes we set up, maybe it's two guys who want to go into landscaping business, or they're going to be painters, or whatever the business is. If there are two or more people, we can do that as well. So.
Okay, now what's the difference between an LLC, maybe an SCorp or a CCorp?
Right, right. So an S Corp and a C Corp, sometimes you want those. And so we work with your accountant to kind of figure out what you want. A lot of times people don't realize that when we set up an LLC, you can elect through the IRS to treat it as an S Corp with regard to tax benefits. So that's one of those things that when somebody calls me and says, I want a C Corp or an S Corp or an LLC, I say, all right, let me shoot an email off to your accountant and let's just make sure we're all on the same page and we're doing it the best way to benefit you. So.
All right. Well, it sounds like you need to sit down and have a cup of coffee with Kim Baer if you're thinking about doing this. And how can people go about doing so?
Sure. You can shoot us an email or give us a call at 515-279-2000, and we're always happy to help. We love working with small businesses.
All right, Kim Baer, you go out and enjoy the rest of your Be Kind to Lawyers Day, and we will talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks, Lou.